Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I have Mr. Chip Higgins with me. He is a business strategist and performance coach focused on helping leaders create sustained momentum through clarity, discipline, and simple, repeatable systems. Chip's book, The Bizzics Way, Powering Your Small Business to Maximum Momentum, earned #1 Amazon bestseller distinction in 5 different categories. His work emphasizes practical execution over complexity, guiding entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders to align their actions with measurable outcomes. Through his teaching, Chip demonstrates how consistent focus on the right inputs can generate long-term growth, impact, and organizational success. Welcome, Chip.
Well, thank you for having me, Angela. It's great to be here.
Yes, thanks for coming on the show. And I love the idea of borrowing concepts from physics and applying it to business. We'll get into that and see how that relates. But first, I want to talk about your background. So, you had mentioned to me that you spent 35 years in banking before launching Bizzics in 2019. So, what was that moment that you knew it was time to do something different, take that leap, and what did it feel like to break that inertia?
Boy, it's hard. I have a chapter in my book on inertia, so I feel like I lived it.
Right.
But yeah, I think what kind of the history or progression was that I grew up in a banking town in North Carolina, big banking mecca with Wachovia, and it was a banking state. And I saw some things in a banking career that were important to me in terms of, community involvement and just kind of helping people get to their dreams of what they wanted. And so when I started into banking, it was really kind of a naive, view of what banking was all about, but so much of it rang true as I proceeded through the evolution of the banking landscape in the U.S. And it's a little bit different than it is for you in Canada because when I joined the banking industry in '84, I think we had about 15,000 banks here, and I think Canada has about 6 or 10 maybe right now.
Yeah, it's no different today,
Uh,
really.
we're
Yeah.
down to about 4,000 through all kinds of consolidation, acquisition, and different things. And over that 35 years, just so many different things came to bear on the industry. We went through, a phase of, well, we can do more than banking. Let's do some financial services. And we had the technology phase, and it just continued to evolve. And technology and delivering credit. And finally, I guess it was 2011. I joined a bank, and they're really trying to take it to another level with advisory. And my challenge working with small business owners, as an executive, was, well, how do you create advisory on scale for this huge slug of customers? There's 36 million small businesses in the United States, and advisory can be very white glove boutique kind of advice coming from an individual. And so we ended up doing a mastermind program, which is they're still doing it today, even though I'm not at the bank anymore. But it was very successful, and it was a way to get business owners together to deal with really great timeless concepts, And but in the process of doing that, it was just kind of like a big eye-opening experience for me of the lives of small business owners and how little of it I had really touched in my banking career for, kind of the affinity I have for small business owners to be pretty much in this place of capital deployment, fraud prevention. But, there's a big customer service component to it. So I just started feeling this urge as I, was approaching a big milestone in my life age-wise that I didn't want to slow down and just kind of ride it out. Like there had to be a new frontier for me professionally. And that was the inertia break that you're either going to do it or not. And you know yourself well enough to take the leap, get started, and just start helping people in a different way. So it's been a very enjoyable ride. I mean, banking was everything I hoped it would be. It was a lot more than I envisioned, just because I was so naive as a teenager. But just met the interesting, fascinating, committed people along the way. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I love what I'm doing now. I mean, it's a different flavor, kind of in the same market and mindset of dealing with business owners.
Yeah, I have that same heart for small business owners. I am one, of course,
Right.
obviously, but yeah, a lot of the advice and the books out there, they all point to all these huge giants in, in the business space, like Apple and Nike, and it's like, well, I cannot relate to that, right? I am not Apple, nor do I want to be Apple or Nike. So, like, give me some practical advice for me. So, I love that you're taking that angle. How do you feel like your decades in banking have shaped the way you think about business strategy, and how do you use that to apply it to what you're today?
Yeah, I think it's multiple levels. I think that when you think about having 15,000 banks in the United States, most of them were small businesses. When you go through the math of what's the actual revenue size and the number of employees, so just being a student of the banking industry and watching why is it that certain banks don't make it? Why do they
Right.
feel like they have to sell? Did they ever have a unique besides a prominent family in a local community? And just how the winners now in the industry had some level of innovation to separate them from the pack that they could acquire and
Mm.
grow and be of the asset size that they are today. So, I think that was a bit of a laboratory, and watching systems come on that allowed you to scale, I think is a really important factor for small business owners today. But, I think also my career was almost 100% spent with locally owned managed businesses. I
Right.
had no experience with Fortune 500. I had a few nonprofits, but it was mostly, an individual and a family that had a desire to be something in their community and to grow, and to watch that over and over and over again, to read the financials, to see the impact of
Mhm.
culture on performance, knowing the family members, knowing their personalities, knowing whether they were in the business for real or like granddad was going to kick them out of the estate, the family will, if they didn't participate and they really didn't have the energy for it. I mean, they're just things that you watch and observe.
Mhm.
As I continued on, and I thought, what would be really helpful to small business owners, to your point, we hear about Apple, Nordstrom, whatever it is. I just felt like, there are lessons here that can be shared that make it really simple for people to understand what it takes to be successful and, to beat the odds. I mean, that's a big part of my psyche right now is how can you help people beat the odds of having a 50% chance of failing, in the first 5 years. So it's a lot of observation and application and listening to people and just hearing that word momentum over and over and over again, to the point I would leave meetings and just wonder, do they know? I mean, if they understood momentum, maybe that's a valuable tool in their toolkit to know what it actually is, instead of a, kind of a lamentation for more. It's like, I want momentum is kind of like, more, please, give me some, give me some sales. That's momentum, and it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, picking out those patterns is crucial, right? You saw the patterns, you put the dots together, and as business owners, we're always looking for that magic bullet because, like, failure can be so imminent, especially
Right.
as you say in the beginning,
Right.
right? So we want to try and avoid it. So gather, like, you have like this massive pool of data
Right.
that we,
Yeah.
just that more normal people just don't have, like, to pull from. So I see that as being really valuable.
Yep.
Um, so that's your background, banking, right? So how do we get to, like, the name Bizzics is very clever. I
Yep.
like that. So tell me about that idea. So applying the laws of physics. So how do we get from banking to physics to small business, right?
Yeah, give me a
How did
whiteboard.
that come to you?
Yeah,
Yeah, how did that come to
I'll draw
you?
the play out.
Mm.
Well, I think at the highest level, you described a dynamic earlier that is so true. I think we look at these titans of industry, and it's hard to kind of take the lesson that I need as a 5-person company or whatever. There's another dynamic that's out there that I found problematic in dealing with business owners, which is just the absolute volume of ideas that are out there. And there's probably over 10,000 business books. There's probably more than that. And, the number of owners that I would meet with, and I'd see a book on their shelf and I'd say, hey, that's a great book. I was like, well, somebody gave it to me, but I never read it. And it's kind of like, people are, networking and trying to get the best new idea, but there's not a wrapper for it. And the more I heard about momentum, I was just like, well, I think there's some value in stripping this all the way down to the studs and saying, well, what is momentum? If it is, if Newton has these laws that are universal, if that is a basic framework that we can say applies to business, then you don't need 10,000 titles. I mean, you probably need 3 or 4 good ideas from people that fit into that formula. And it's just, it's a simple formula of mass times velocity. And so that really, it just kind of drove me into like a exploration phase in my life of like, is this a thing or not? And it required me to go find a real scientist. I had a friend that was on the physics faculty at Vanderbilt, and ultimately he had moved away, but he's a Caltech trained physicist, and he was very gracious and generous with his time. We spent several hours together, and I kind of told him what I was working on, and he said, well, I don't get it, but we can talk. And so I just started asking him about momentum. What are all the factors in it? And the more he talked, it was just like light bulbs going off in my head of things that I had seen, that I could see the truth in it for any business owner. It's the same thing. And that led to the development of my book, which is 8 chapters, 200 pages, but it really just takes that formula and says, this is how it works. If you think about how your car runs or what happens when you're, sledding down a hill or whatever, like it's the same thing for your business. And this is how it works. And I personally found that very gratifying, to be involved in that kind of discovery for myself. But I think it's also, there's a lot of merit in simplicity, but not being simplistic. When people take the time to make something simple for you, I mean, it's a really valuable thing. And I think that's what the book represents, is just the simple formula that applies to your business. You can remember, and you can pull in whatever big idea from, thought leaders. It's going to impact the formula somehow, and it's up to you to choose that and to own it and implement it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Momentum, like even just, I know when I'm, on a streak posting on social media, it's so easy to just keep going. But then if I stop for a long time, getting going
It's hard
again,
to regain, isn't it? Right.
like torture, right? So it's like, why do I do this to myself? So I'm really vibing with the idea of momentum. And I love that you found a scientist to actually pick his brain on this whole thing.
Yeah, I would never have done this on my own. I think it was enough imposter syndrome anyway. But if I had flown without a science wingman on it, it would have been. I think it would have been a little hollow, but it holds up.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, yeah, when we think of momentum, like I would assume that most entrepreneurs think that it's a feeling, but how does that physics formula for momentum make it something you can actually measure and manage?
That's a great question, and I think that is what you just said there is. I mean, that's the statement that's the feeling that I would get when I walked away from people talking about momentum. It's just like, it's a feeling that things are good. But if you really have momentum, you're going to feel good. And so I think the way I would break it down is there are 2 variables in the momentum equation. It's very simple. It's, mass times velocity. And embedded in that is another really big idea of energy, because energy is going to affect velocity. It's not, you don't see it explicitly in the equation, but you have to understand energy, entrepreneurial energy, energy in cultures. So you've got to really embrace the idea of energy as life-giving and not a buzzword in itself, that it's not just like, hey, I read the energy bus. Like, it's the thing that you've got to obsess about every single day, is like, where's the energy factor? And I don't know, when you take a break from socials, is it an energy factor of like, I just need I need a break because I've been pouring so much into this? I mean, you can ask yourself about that. But So if you understand energy as a vibrational field of some kind, and for entrepreneurs, it's really that difference that you're trying to make in the world. Where you are today, the problem that you see, and how you're going to solve it, and the gap between where you are today and the vision of all the people that you're going to help, or all the companies that you're going to help in a unique way, is what drives us. I mean, that's what really kind of pushes us forward. And so, you can think about that, and you think about, we can talk later about culture, but, culture is basically an energy grid. I mean, if you're a solopreneur and all of a sudden you're trying to distribute energy to 3 new employees, you better understand something about culture, because it will kill the energy field immediately if you don't have a good one. It's like a valve on how your spirit toward the work will flow through other people. Okay. So, I mean, that's the energy part. Now, the part even though mass comes first, I want to talk about velocity, because I think, to your question about, well, what is it? How is it different than just feeling great about your business? It's probably the most important thing, because, velocity in science is a vector. And by definition, vectors in science have to have 3 things. They have to have a direction, a distance, and a speed. Okay. So if you think about an airline pilot, or wherever, things are moving, if there's a vector, it's going to have those 3 things. And what I found a lot with entrepreneurs and small business owners is that tremendous energy level and excitement, and oftentimes complete lack of direction about where they're going with it. I mean, it's like I say in my book, like, it reminds me of the pinwheel firework when I was a kid. Like, I used to like bottle rockets because you could see them take off, but the pinwheel would just spin around in circles, and then there'd be smoke. You wouldn't see any tangible movement toward anything. So if you have a direction, a distance, and a speed in business, the first thing you have to have is a clear idea of where you're going. And I would say that's a question that stumps a lot of business owners. Where are you going? And the answer is usually more. Well, more of what? And what it requires a business owner to do is be very explicit about who the ideal client is. Who is this person or company or industry that you're trying to help? How many are there, and how many of them do you think will be doing business with you in the next 2 to 3 years? And oftentimes we're so excited about the idea, we're not that explicit in our mind about where we're going. I mean, you could draw like a market share line on a graph of like where you are today and how much share you're going to have. So the direction, how far you want to go, is usually some level of market share or sales volume. And then the speed is really, one of the more perplexing factors of, we tend to take on as much as humanly possible because we have bills to pay, and it's not always the healthiest thing for a business. I mean, hyper growth will do it to you every time. But I would just challenge anybody listening to this podcast. How do you check the boxes on those 3? And if somebody asked you who your ideal client was, would you be able to define it very discreetly and tell them how many there are, where you find them, and how you plan to get even 2% more of that market next year than this year? Now, I'd say that's very different than the feeling of things are good. And
right.
And and I don't know what you find, in your work, Angela. I know you do a lot of great branding work, but when people are on fire for an idea, this type of questioning is very tedious to people that are idea people.
Yeah.
And the more questions you ask of like, well, is that somebody that's between 30 and 40, 30 and 50? Are they a homeowner? Where do they shop? Where do they, it feels very tedious, but it's like the most important work you can do, because if you don't know that, you really don't know where you're going. I mean, you're guessing that there's going to be a broad enough appeal that somebody's going to adopt your service and pay you for it. So it's like building a foundation. I in the book, I emphasize, a rolling 3-year planning cycle. Every year you're revisiting it. And, it kind of aligns with this idea of rockets being off course 95% of the time. You're going to start, and I promise you're not going to end up where you thought. But you want to be purposeful and profitable along the way as you make these adjustments. Even in my own business with Bizzics, it's like, well, who's the best client for me? There's 35 million small businesses in America, but not everybody needs Bizzics and what that offers. And then the mass part, I'll complete this, and then we'll see if you have any questions for me. But I love the mass chapter in my book. My favorite part of it is I get to quote Monty Python at the beginning. It's kind of like, what's the riddle to pass the oracle? What's the one riddle that you have to solve? And how can a small business be massive? I mean, that's a riddle. And it really comes down to the idea that in science, mass has very little to do with size. It's all about density. And if you took the periodic table and, you kind of spread it out, every element on that table has a different density, and it has to do with what's at the very center of it. 98, and this is my friend Marcus coming through in the clutch for me. When he said this, like, it wasn't lit up. I was like, I was having a fireworks show in my mind. If 98% of the mass of anything is in the nucleus, and that's scientific fact delivered by my friend Marcus, how would you define the nucleus of your business, and how heavy do you think that is? And this is where we get into, are you even ready to run a business? I mean, are you experienced enough? Have you failed enough to run something that you've learned a lot of valuable, or are you just an idea person? Do you have character, integrity? These are things that you can say, well, it's an intangible. I promise you, working in banking for 40 years, whether we're lending money or you're raising money, the number one question people are going to ask is, who's the management team? I mean, that's where the flow. I mean, does the person have integrity? Do they have proven results? Do they have a track record? You have all of that. And then you've got something that is going back to what I said earlier. It is at the nucleus, and you've got values, vision. I mean, all those things are right in the middle of it. But what I love to talk about is that also at the middle of it is that you've got to have a unique value proposition. And I see a lot of people start. It looks like the market is so huge you can't miss. We need another restaurant. We need something in our community or whatever. And you find out, like, there's nothing different about what you're doing. HVAC companies, it's like people think, low barriers to entry will do this more often than not. People just think, like, if I tell people I'm in this business, I'm going to get business. Well, that's not the truth. And no matter what you're doing, if you haven't spent the time to figure out how your product is going to be different in a tangible way, it's going to be really hard to have weight in the market. And the image that I like to use, and I'll shut up and just take questions from you after this, is that to bring all this home is that, a volleyball and a bowling ball are the same size, but they have completely different mass. And that's what we're trying to do, is like go to the very center of the value proposition, even the intention of the work that you're doing. Like, what is the intention of it? Is there somebody on the other end that you're intending to help, or is it just like you need to make some money? And people that to make money, it's not a heavyweight intention of what you're trying to undertake in the world. It's not sustainable. So there are other things in there about connection, the way cultures come together, the way people bond with each other, bond to the vision, bond to the mission, values, all of it. And a lot of it has to do with onboarding and culture and that type of thing. But the bonding part can really make a difference too, in the weight that you bring to the market, and whether that's internally or even with your clients, and the way you interact with them. So I'm having some self-awareness. I've been talking for a long time, so
that's okay.
I'm going to catch my breath and see if there's anything you want me to react to there.
Yeah, no, it was a big question. I mean, breaking down your whole formula there for us, but I'm so glad to hear you say some of these things, because the work that I do, as you mentioned, as a brand strategist, I get the same looks from people. Like, they're very excited about what they want to do and what they want to start, or maybe they've been in it a while, but I'll stump them with some of the questions like, why does this business exist? Other than making money, why does this exist?
Yes.
Would you still be doing this if, you didn't need to work or something like that? Like, what is the why behind it? What is the
why people
behind
need
it?
you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like this is one of the biggest pitfalls, in my opinion, of being successful over that first 3 years, is the fear of getting just challenging questions from an expert drives you to people that love you and won't tell you the truth. They won't ask you hard questions. And when you're going to family members and saying, "Isn't this awesome?" It's like, "Yeah, go for it, man. It's an American dream. Just go for it." And you can save yourself a lot of time and heartache, energy, and being very thorough on the front end with someone like you. I mean, it's clear the questions to ask. I mean,
Well, thank you for that unsolicited
absolutely.
endorsement.
Absolutely. I
But
mean, sometimes people think branding is, in banking, it used to be, well, we got all these great giveaway items, or like, in our banner
right,
cool or whatever. But, I mean,
right.
branding is like so heartfelt and intentional. You've got to have a great partner to ask you good questions about it.
And I'm all about asking. I was the kid who would not shut up about questions. So I questioned everything. So I
Yeah.
am the gal, just so you know, for this job. And
Questions
that's
are us.
exactly, yeah, exactly. That was me, and it's still me. And that's exactly why I got into this work. So I started out as a graphic designer, and I noticed, some things you were noticing, like why are business owners failing? And I knew I had to deliver more than just making something pretty, like the
Right.
nice banner at the front of the bank,
Right.
things
Right.
like
Yeah.
this. And that's all I was doing. And I realized they need something deeper. They need to understand like their UVP, because there's so many. Even if you're the most unique brand in the world right now, guaranteed somebody's going to come along and become that copycat
Yeah.
brand. And then what?
Right.
And
It's the
then why do
jungle.
people choose you? Other than money, why is anyone going to choose you? So, and then it becomes a race to the bottom, which nobody wants to win that race.
Right. Right.
So I'm so glad to hear someone else say that, because sometimes I feel like, I'm like, okay, we have to do, like, everybody wants to get to the pretty stuff and the website and it's like I have to reel them back and be like, okay, we got to do this thing first, right? And trust me,
Absolutely.
like, do you trust me? Do you trust the process? And at first, I've had people in sessions like arms crossed and like,
Yeah.
I don't know about this. But at the end, they're always like, wow, that was so clarifying for me.
Right. Yes.
And the thing you
That's it.
produced at the end of it is like, it just blew my mind. Like, how did you get it? Like, this is us, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the process. Yes, it's a bit painful at the beginning. I try to make it fun, but it's a little bit of, you got to use your brain a little bit and you got to dig deep
Yeah.
sometimes. So I totally get it. So I'm glad we're vibing there. So we talk about energy there. So what kinds of things drain a business owner's energy that they don't even notice or think about?
Oh my gosh. I think there's two parts to that to me. I think that there are drains. Some of the drains are things that just sap it. Are you don't have processes set up. You're putting more energy into something than you need to. Some of that's financially driven about what kind of systems and processes you can afford. But it's the sheer amount of work that has to be done to move forward requires so much energy. And where I would say there's a bigger problem is, think about that vibrational field I was talking about. And you've got this vision and you've got yourself here. I would ask a lot more about what's ruining the vibe for you. What is getting in the way that you can't fully experience that vibrational energy toward what you're doing. And a lot of times it's self-doubt. A lot of it's naysayers. I mean, there are a lot of factors that come in and try to interrupt that flow, that vibration. And if you're not coaching yourself to like your highest vibrational state every single day, it doesn't even matter, what the processes are. You just don't have enough to start. I look at people that, they've got a side gig. They're already working 60 or 70 hours a week, and they're trying to side gig something out in a pop-up restaurant or doing flea markets or whatever, and what we realize, like the human body and mind can only do so much. And so, just be aware of yourself and where the energy comes from. And this is another place, Angela, I'd say, like, if your only motivation is money, this is a place where there's not enough vibration in that really for a lot of people to make it. I think that private equity firms, people that have big investment portfolios, that's energizing for them. Just deploying money is like, making money and making a return. I mean, that's what they do. But for people that are starting businesses, it's got to be something where you see people behaving differently or using a product that helps them, and you think, man, that, it really worked. I mean, it's a phenomenal thing. Every time I see someone with an iPod, like, I mean, that is, whatever the product is. And then I think the final part, you get through, do I have enough to start? Where the places where I'm really expending too much energy. But there are places that are just natural drains. There are people that you deal with. There are conflicts. There are things that are sideshows to the general mission that you've got to anticipate that if you're a business owner, you're probably going to have multiple conflicts that you're dealing with every single day. Whether it's a vendor, an employee, there's so many places where it pops up, and it's just like, that's just not a productive energy use for me to be arguing with people all the time. Like, do I have a skill set that can help me do better at that? Like, it's like, can I navigate through that where there's not just kind of a leak out of it? So I think those are really important things to think about on energy. And I've said this on other podcasts. I think this might be a good time to say it to your audience too, is that I couldn't possibly write out the formula for speed. Like, I was just lucky that momentum is two variables, but speed is much more complicated. But my friend Marcus was able to illuminate something or highlight something in that formula that's really important to know, is that speed and energy have a direct relationship, but it's squared. So if you want to go twice as fast, you need 4 times the energy. If you want to go 9 times as fast or 3 times as fast, you need 9 times the energy. And
Wow.
I have found that absolutely true in business. And you get into this mode of like, well, we need to be at $1 million at the end of year 1 or whatever. And like, you're trying to hit a sales plan that is like impossible. And if you're the only one doing it, like I've just seen so many businesses run out of energy before they run out of money. The expectations were not appropriate. Going back to that vector of like how, where, how far, and how fast. If you're not careful about what you're committing yourself to, you'll find that your energy field alone is not enough to fulfill it. And if you haven't found energy in other people, in teammates, in supporters, in investors, whatever, like you have tapped into multiple energy fields. You've got to be very careful about how fast you think you can go based on your own energy source.
Yeah, I think sometimes we overestimate, burnout is very real as an entrepreneur. I've seen a lot of people just try and take on too much and then just end up burning out versus, pacing themselves. It's kind of, it's like a marathon, right? You don't want to sprint the whole way.
Right.
And you want to,
perfect analogy. Yep.
Yeah. And you want to hire people that can help you along the way. You can't do it all. I mean, eventually, right? As far as growing,
even goes, in, like now, even with fractional, I love the development of the fractional workforce.
Yes.
I think there's still something that an entrepreneur owner has got to be able to find energy in that partner that is matching their own. There's a lot of people that know how to do the work. Who are the people that are totally bought into your vision and mission and will take this on, probably not at the same level as you, but like if you could get them to even 80%, I mean, that's a win. And I've had that happen myself. It's like, yeah, people can do the work, but are they really excited about it? Like they see themselves in the vision board at the end. That's people that you want, even if they're not direct employees. Every partner, you really ought to be plumbing, like, what are they bringing to this in their own personal energy field?
Yeah. And that's where it comes into understanding what your values are and your culture, because you're passing that along to everyone you work with and work for as well. So if you're not clear on that and why someone would come and join you in your venture, you might have misalignment there, and that's something that could be detrimental to your business. So that foundational work, people, we're going to keep harping on it. We're going to keep going there. Yeah. So let's talk about this method. So I know you talked about that you work with entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders. So how does the Bizzics approach differ for those two worlds, or does it?
I think the principles apply. Um, I mean, it is to me, a lot of people say, well, that's a great metaphor. And, I'm probably a little out there and saying, well, it's not a metaphor. It's a universal law. We live in a place where this applies, it's not like I'm making up a story here. But I
Yeah.
think when you start, compare and contrast, like what's a for-profit, individually owned business like compared to a nonprofit organization, what you find is just something that's a little bit more complicated because a nonprofit would have, most nonprofits I know would have a board, and all of a sudden it's like you brought a mission for helping the unhoused in a community, and your initial pass at that looked very entrepreneurial. It was like you were going out and canvassing, you're finding people, you're getting them hand warmers, you were all these things, and it's like, well, I'm being very successful with this. If I could get some money, we could do 4 times the work. And all of a sudden you're in a place where it looks a lot like a corporate environment because you've had to organize a board, a chairman of that board that is managing the organization while you're still the visionary. And so I would just say that it requires a lot more disciplines about how some of these things work. Like even the vector, even the velocity part of it is not necessarily your decision anymore. It's like it's a collective decision that will be. I hate to use the word brokered, but when you get in a room with 6 or 7 people, there's natural give and take in getting to the final answer, and it's like ultimately it's going to be good because you're going to have, if you've done it well, you're going to have 7 or 8 people as energized about this vision as you are. The problem is that some people don't know how to do that effectively, and you end up with just
Right.
kind of chaos. There's a lot of people involved, and there's a lot of ideas being thrown up on the wall, and it becomes an energy, an energy leak for you. That, well, I thought it was going to be great when I got somebody to commit $50,000 next year for a program, and then you realize, well, I have 3 new people to be accountable to that came with that money, and it's different in that respect. But other ways, I think it's pretty much the same. I think you want
Yeah.
to have a good board. I mean, you don't want casual actors. You want people that are going to make an impact. That know people that will take up the cause that you have. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of similarity in the idea of momentum. There's a lot more complexity in the way that you manage it year in, year out, even month in, month out. I mean, it's just a little bit more involved.
Yeah, and like you say, it's like a universal law.
Right.
So, and that's how you came to this, is you saw these
Yeah.
truths
And what
in
I
all
find,
the.
it's interesting. This is kind of an aside, but I think it's
Yeah.
relevant. There's a thing in science about force. It's like you can have one big force, one big push that will equate to 100 little pushes.
Right.
The 100 little
Right.
ones cumulative. And there's a phenomenon I like to talk about when nonprofits come up, that when the big fundraiser is happening,
Mm.
you have tremendous energy for, who's got the auction table, who's selling tables, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like you have this huge like communal energy push toward a successful fundraiser. And then after it's over, everybody's kind of exhausted and telling the stories. The bank account is full, but where's the energy after that? And I think what you hope
Right.
for the nonprofit is like the board and the stakeholders are continuing to make those pushes in the community after the big event, and that kind of maps back to launching a startup. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like the energy to get a rock rolling, and then you realize, hey, it's working. What do I do now? It's like you're exhausted.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
how am I going to do it again next year? It's so
Yeah.
keep in mind it can be a lot of little touches and not just one big push.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing about staying consistent, like, even as
Mhm.
a solopreneur, there's the feast and famine cycles, but how do you even those out by being consistent in your marketing, for example, while you're in that,
While you're not even
feast
seeing
cycle?
results. I mean,
Yeah,
that's I've found. I mean, it's
yeah,
challenging.
that's
Keep keep banging the drum. But there are times when you're not harvesting, and it feels it's discouraging. It's like, well, where can I get this message where it'll be heard and acted upon? And I think some of it's just seasonality or cyclicality or whatever. But you can't stop. You got to keep pushing.
Exactly. And then measuring things like what's working and why,
Right.
and
Right.
how can I tweak and adjust as well. So you say that patience and diligence about what works matters more than speed. So we talked about, most of us are obsessed with getting there faster, right? We have these huge goals. How do you convince clients to slow down?
I don't want to be too cosmic, but I tend to go back to nature, and I enjoy being out in my yard. I like seeing, springtime is great for me. I mean, I really enjoy it. And the metaphor that I would use on that is with people that I think starts to sink in is that all of these things that we see, if it's an oak tree, if it's a tulip, if it's whatever, it's like, what the DNA is on that. And if you put tulips in October, March 1st, you're gonna have some good color. It's a there's a species that it has been studied, and we know this, and that's not how entrepreneurship is. I mean, generally speaking, there's some commonality in starting a business. The idea of like, well, I'm going to form an LLC and I'm going to get an accountant. But when it comes to delivering an idea, manifesting an idea that's deep inside you and bringing it out in a tangible way that has longevity, there is no timeline. I mean, there's not. It's almost impossible to predict when it's going to click. When that one marketing program worked 10 times better than the last one. And that's why you have to be patient. And I'm not, I'm not a big fan of just jumping in and expecting a huge result within 12 months. People that leave work and, kind of expect, well, I'm going to give it my full time now. And, it's going to happen. Well, a lot of things have to happen. How many, you're in branding. I mean, how many different options to promote yourself are there? How many different funnel builders are there? How many different, it's like, and so I love to talk about this friend of mine, Bobby Martin. He's a very successful entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and he wrote a book called Hockey Stick Principles. And this has stayed with me forever. And he's got a great company right now that he is kind of a redo after he got out of non-compete and everything. But in this book, Hockey Stick Principles, I mean, basically his contention is that you will go for a while on the blade. You're desiring the stick. Right. Everybody wants a 45-degree angle, into perpetuity. Right. But in entrepreneurship, I mean, you spend a lot of time on that blade tinkering around and figuring out what works and what doesn't work, even finding like the nth degree of detail around that target client. And I'm sure you found that, like you've probably walked out of sessions. It's like, everybody's clear on this. And then you start trying to find that person or that company. And it's like, well, maybe it's not that, maybe it's just a little bit more this way. That's how it works for most people. And, I think, there are, when I look at the kind of the economic industry landscape, you see people make huge plays on ideas, like AI right now, like people are investing billions. They want to have it when they drop it. It's like, they want $1 billion in revenue the first year. That's not how it works for most people. Most people just, I love this. I want to make a difference in it. I have something that's already unique. I might need to cue it up a little bit more, but you're tinkering and tinkering and tinkering. And if you'll hang in there on that blade, you will get to the stick. But you've got to figure out financially, what's your staying power, emotionally, energy level. Can you commit to a multi-year proposition to anticipate that great growth that you hope for and the impact that you want to make, not only the revenue growth, but just looking at it going, all these people are using this. I mean, it's fantastic.
Right. Having that deeper why, the connection to why you're doing what you're doing, because some days are going to be harder than others to get your feet up out of bed and on the floor and doing the thing. Right.
So I think you just have to be, I think that the inspiration in it is that you're bringing something very unique to
Mm.
the world. And that should be enough for most people to say it's worth it. Like I'm doing something really unique. The downside is it's so unique. Like there's nobody that's studied the plant genus for 15 years and can tell you that, April 15th, you're going to have full blooms
Right.
on it. It's
It's not
just
like
not.
that. And that's honestly, that's why most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that I work with have gone into business for themselves. They see a different angle. They're like pattern interrupters. They see something wrong in their industry and they want to
Mhm.
do it differently. And so that's why they go into business. So they already have that piece of it, where the differentiation piece of it. It's just like a matter of how do you brand yourself to, you know, put that out there in a way that's compelling and people can understand what you're all about and why they should choose you, right? Why should I work with you versus nobody else? That's another question that stumps anyone I work with. Why should I work with
Oh,
you versus anyone else? And it's like, er, it's record scratch.
you're not going to ask me that. So,
Yeah,
next question.
next pass. Well, I don't want you to get away from here before we talk about your book. So you hit number 1 on Amazon in 5 different categories. Yay! But you
Yeah.
also
Yeah. That's
you also
awesome.
mentioned in all caps in my intake form about imposter syndrome. So what was that about? What was going through your mind when you were climbing those charts?
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
hard. It's
Yeah.
just hard. I think I don't know too many people that don't struggle with
It's
it.
true.
It's like, um, when I referenced earlier, I think I was talking about a mastermind program we did at a bank, and we had Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited book, which is
Yeah,
I'd
that's the
recommend it to
first
anybody
book
at any
I've read
time.
on
It's just
business. Yeah,
phenomenal.
it's a good one.
Yeah, but it's just like when there's someone that accomplished out there, you get these feelings of like, why should I even try? Like, is there something new that I'm going to add to the
Yeah.
dialogue in this category? And Forbes was my publisher, and gosh, they were so supportive and helping me just believe in the fact that this is different. It's a different mindset. It's worth it, and you'll be happy when you get it out there. And it was honestly like one of the proudest days of my life, April 17th, 2024, when that book came out. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that, that had come out of me and taken that form and had been well received by so many people. And, there's still days I wonder about it. But anytime I talk to somebody that read it and they're like, man, that was,
Yeah.
it's so worth it. I mean, whoever's listening, that you feel like you have something inside of yourself, it's not going to be easy. I promise you it'll be worth it. I mean,
Totally.
it's the most self-validating thing in the end, if you can fight through it, that you had some kind of recipe inside yourself
Yeah.
that gave somebody a different perspective or a different
Yeah.
experience. So don't hold back on imposter syndrome. It's made up. You're awesome as you are, and once you bring it to the world, the impact will be felt. Don't let expectations or ideas hold
Yeah,
you
lovely
back.
words, and I'm glad to hear you wrestle with that too, because I think we all do, like you say, underneath it all. Even the other week, I gave a little small talk about just a little topic that I'm passionate about, and I kind of thought, well, I'm not a public speaker, right? I'm not, you know. But I gave it my best, and then somebody from the event wrote me and said, "Oh, that was so awesome," right? I took so many notes, and I didn't know what he was doing at the event. I thought, "Oh, he's kinda distracted." Like, you start thinking about the negative stuff, like, "Oh, maybe he's not really listening to me," but he was taking notes furiously and, like, listening to what I was saying, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's interesting," right?
isn't
Yeah.
that great? I just think, I think, you know, there's a old saying of, comparison is the
Yeah.
thief of joy, or whatever that quote is. And I mean, that's just so embedded in imposter syndrome. Like we're instantaneously trying to compare ourselves to other people, and the best thing you can do is just bring our full
Yeah.
selves, and don't ever worry if you're as good as the last person on the stage. Just bring it 100%. People enjoy that. I mean, I think people just enjoy authenticity, even the message is not highly unique. I mean, just an authentic person in front of others is very
Yeah,
compelling.
and in
So
the woo-woo realm.
take the gloves
Yeah,
off.
I agree, and when you're talking about energy and vibration, I've heard this being said of authenticity, that it's the highest vibrational frequency that we can put out there, like, even above love. So, that says something, right? Like, we're all
I believe that. I
Yeah, we
do.
just have to
Yeah,
bring
I
ourselves
believe
to
it.
the table.
There's nothing impeding an energy flow if you're authentic.
Yeah,
It's like once you put on somebody else's words or face or mannerisms or whatever, I mean, it's automatically limiting what's coming
yeah.
out of you. Yeah,
And it's just like anything else. You're not gonna be for everybody, and that's okay, you know? You're not for
yeah,
everybody,
totally.
but the people who are for you,
Go
you'll
find your
find your
people.
people, and it's not
Right.
everyone. It's just like a business or a brand, you're not for everyone. So, I do wanna show your book here. So this is your book cover, and you can get a
Thank
copy
you.
on
Yeah,
Amazon. We will link that.
I love
Yeah.
my. I have to say the inside's great too. I love my
Yeah, it's so
cover,
cool.
and please go look for it on Amazon. We got I have the hardback, Kindle, and audio.
Awesome.
The audio's there's some pictures in the book that you might need when you're listening to it. I think the audio book is great, but 3 different formats, and I'll say this. There are QR codes in every chapter to go to a resource center. So there's about 20 or 25 business planning resources that come with the book that you can access through that QR
Very cool.
code. So you pick up a lot with it. I mean, I think the book itself is well worth it, but you can find yourself, being resourced in a way when you buy it that's very
Amazing.
helpful.
So yes, please go check it out. And also, you do have a free gift for our listeners here at
Oh, yes, I
yeah,
do. Yeah, thank you for
yeah.
that. Okay, so let me
Okay.
just say this. Yes, if you did ask me what's unique about you, why
Yeah.
would anybody want to work with you? My goal in life is or my professional life has been to get the best to the people with the least. And I think small business owners, it's hard to afford coaching financially. It's hard to have the time for it. And so this is my contribution. One of my big uniques is Bizzics on Demand. It's a AI agent for my
Mm,
book. So it's provides a contextualized experience of the book in your
mm.
own way. If you just go to this URL, Bizzics.com, Bizzics on Demand, it'll show you how to sign up. There's a 7-day free trial, no card. I'm not going to ask you for your card or anything. Just get in and
Very
use it.
cool.
And whether that is just, hey, tell me about Chip's book. Tell me what he means by inertia. Tell me what it can do that. Where it has done amazing work is people coming in with their real chellenges, just saying, I'm a florist in a small community. I'm trying to grow, or, I've got 20 people. I don't have a culture, and it will help you define the problem,
Wow.
figure out what you could do, ask you what you're ready to do, and then resource you for it.
Amazing.
So 7 days is a good time to just bring some challenges and issues, or even just wanting to understand the book without having to read it. And I absolutely love this. And AI, it's funny. Here's so many different things about AI now. It's not safe. It's using up a lot of energy, a lot of different things. But to me, this is a really wise use of intelligence to be able to take my
Mm,
book and have you interact with it
I love that.
personally, and it'll keep a catalog. You can go back to conversations that you've had and say, well, I did that. Now what are we going to do
Yeah,
next? I mean, it's great that it keeps up with you over time. So
yeah.
please uh, take down that 7-day free trial. And again, I don't even ask for a card. I just want you to have access to
Amazing. That's a great offer. Thank you. And great that you can get some business advice in 7 days. And if you like it, carry on, buy the subscription.
it.
That's
Carry on.
amazing. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for being on and talking about your book and your process.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. I mean, I thoroughly
Yeah,
enjoyed it. I hope you felt my
I
energy
did.
throughout. You're a great host, and thank you for all the great questions and just this opportunity. I love talking about small business ownership and all the challenges and everything goes into it. So I'm very grateful for you to give me the
Thank you. And
chance.
thank you for sharing. I loved it all. So I'm looking forward to reading your book and checking out this free gift. That's amazing. You created an AI agent all for yourself. That's so cool. I might have to talk to you more about that sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Chip, and thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.